Podcast for female entrepreneurs who know they're here to lead, not just build a business. This show is for women stepping into the Alpha Queen era, where leadership becomes identity, power is embodied, and success is created from the inside out. Here, we explore sovereign leadership, expansion, vision, purpose, business, and the inner work that is required to build an empire that fits the woman you are becoming. Strategy matters, but who you are matters more. I'm Carissa Atkins, and this is Iconic Leadership. Welcome to the new standard of the Alpha Queen power. Welcome to today's Iconic Leadership show. So today's episode is for the women who look really strong on paper. You know the ones I'm talking about, right? They're leading teams, they're building their businesses, they're holding their families together, they're hitting milestones, and yet in private, they feel depleted, foggy, exhausted, or like they just want to get off of this wild, crazy, ride that they're on sometimes. But here's the truth. Success doesn't make you immune to burnout, and leadership doesn't protect your biology. So my guest today is someone I deeply respect. Kay Spears is in the house, and Kay is a functional nutritionist with over 30 years of clinical experience. She's the expert that physicians bring in when the labs, look normal, but the woman sitting in front of them clearly has something going on. So Kay has spent decades decoding hormones, stress patterns, and gut chaos, and of course, burnout, especially burnout in high-achieving women. She blends science with intuition, strategy with compassion, and has a rare way of making biology feel like a breakthrough therapy session. So in today's conversation, ladies, we are talking about how stress actually plays out in our women's bodies. We're going to talk about the myths in the wellness and the hormone industry that are keeping women stuck. We're going to talk about why leadership stress creates a chain of reactions that impacts your body, your mind, your life, and your business. And of course, she is a co-author of a best-selling book called Alpha Queens Rising, and she is one of our amazing keynote speakers at the Rise Where Purpose Meets Power events. We're going to kind of dive into all of that today. But if you've ever been told your labs look fine while your life feels anything but, this episode is for you. So with that, Kay, welcome to Iconic Leadership.
Thank you, Carissa. Thank you. Gosh, what an awesome
Hey, Kay, how are you?
introduction. I am great. How are you doing?
Are
Um,
we
so
are we having some technical difficulties?
I am not sure.
Oh,
Can
there
you
we go.
hear me now?
Yay.
It froze for half a second. So anyway, I said thank you so much for that powerful introduction. And oh my goodness, you just told my story pretty much because I know all about the burnout because I hit that wall so hard when I was building my practice and ended up taking me down for 3 years. So I get the burnout for sure.
Oh my gosh. And I have personally experienced this not once, but twice. But hey, you guys, this show's not about me today. We're going to make Kay the star of the show because she is the star and she is working magic in all of her clients' lives. So, Kay, take us back. What originally pulled you into functional nutrition and what moment made you realize that it wasn't just a career, but your calling?
Yeah, so I was just graduated. I was a nutritionist and I was helping athletes and, with their stamina, and I was helping, teenagers lose weight, which is what I originally felt my calling was. And then I was building my practice, finishing my master's degree and writing a book and trying to show the world who I was. And silently in the background, I was about to lose my home. I had so much stress. I was single, trying to pull everything together on my own. I didn't want to go work for a company. And so I was just losing everything and everything unraveled. And one day I got up to get ready for work and my feet hit the ground and my body did not follow. And the room was spinning uncontrollably. So I just thought it was an inner ear infection and went back to bed and canceled my appointments. And then the next day ended up in the ER and I was diagnosed with vertigo, which vertigo is a symptom, not a diagnosis. And from there, it was 3 years of holding on to the wall, not being able to walk, going to different doctors with different diagnoses. One doctor diagnosed me with Meniere's, and your life will never be the same. And this is going to be your story for the rest of your life. And I'm on all these medications that aren't working. And so, after spending hundred thousands and thousands of dollars going to healers all over the world trying to get well, I decided I'm going to have to learn this stuff and fix myself, which is my story, which is how I'm able to help others, because it was really about looking at the root cause. And for me, just quickly, it was, the physical manifestation of stress, big time
Mhm.
stress. But I also took 3 trips to Peru for some mission trips where I was helping areas where there was no running water and there was a sandstorm with livestock. And so it something settled in my inner ear. So I call it the perfect storm. I had the physical manifestation along with the extra trigger that kind of all came together and just changed my world. So that's how I got into functional nutrition. I started taking all these classes, trying to learn about the testing, looking at the root cause. And by the way, I'm not on any medications anymore. And that label diagnosis is not part of my story because I refuse to be a label. And this is what I want to tell everyone out there is we don't have to be labeled by a disease. Stress is not when you go to the doctor, it's not a diagnosis code. It shows up as cardiovascular disease. It shows up as IBS. It shows up with all these different labels. We have to look at the root cause.
I love, love, love that. As not only as a business coach, I always have to dive into the root cause on the mindset side of business, right? Because the symptom is lack of sales, lack of money, lack of, team development, like whatever the lack of, that's the symptom that we feel at the top. But we have to be willing to go to the root cause to kind of figure out, why am I procrastinating? Why am I, self-sabotaging? Why do I not feel worthy? Why do I feel like I can't charge that much? So I love that you really get to the root of the cause and not just slap another prescription on someone. Now, I get it. Like, prescription has its place in the world. I know meds, allowed my mom to be with us a couple of extra years before, cancer got the best of her. But I just wish that if I could go back and tell her not to stress out so much, I think that that would be my biggest piece of advice to my mom, is I truly believe that stress is what caused that disease to come back over and over and over again. And that's just, that's obviously a child looking back. But when I look back at her life, right, 12 years of fighting cancer, almost every moment it came back, right?
Yeah.
After, remission, after all of the things, it was stemmed from a traumatic life experience or some major stressful time. So I think as leaders, as women, as moms, as entrepreneurs, right, we know stress is bad, but why do you think women just like kind of turn the other eye and they're like, I'll figure that out later. I just got to keep plugging in. Why do you think that's like such a problem for women to just ignore the stress?
Wow, that's a great question. I just talked about this. I spoke at a big convention last week, and I was talking to a room full of 250 women on this very topic. And that it's because we are designed as women to, I always talk about when you're on the airplane, right? And they tell you to put the mask on, the mask on, the oxygen mask on yourself first. I think we're designed to take care of everyone else. I mean, we're the ones that have children, right? We're the ones that take care of our families. We do all of these different things and we put ourselves last and we just ignore the signs that are telling us that we need to do self-care, pay attention to me. And so our body starts to talk to us because our body responds to its environment, right? So our body's going to talk to us and it's going to tell us what we need. But if we're not listening to it because we're too busy taking care of everyone else and not doing the self-care, then it's going to affect us and it's going to show up in ways that we don't want it to be there. And case in point to your mom, and yes, there is a time and place for medicine. So true. But
Yeah.
cancer is definitely, we don't look at the stress aspect
Mhm.
of that really drives some of those things forward. So, yeah,
I
yes.
remember I'll take you back to 2019, Kay. So I had just left my corporate job, right, to pursue my passion as a coach and speaker. I had all this like drive and excitement. And so I left that, that comfy salary, like everything that was going so easy for me in my life, right, for entrepreneurship. And so we know the stress that that brings on. Well, 3 months later, right, my husband kind of gave me this ultimatum of like, I know we're not happy. We're not in a good place. We haven't been for a long time. I need you to figure out your life so that, if we need to have a divorce, like shit or get off the pot, Chris. And I was like, okay, wow. Okay. So like 4 months after that, leaving, my corporate life, I decided to file for divorce because it was what's meant for me, even though it was against everything that I've ever grown up believing, that I wanted for myself in my marriage. But after 15 years, I knew that. So corporate to coach to entrepreneurship to, divorce. And I think the straw that really hit like the thing was like all of a sudden the clients and the money were running out, right? COVID had hit. It was like the third trifecta that did it in. And I'm telling you, stress, you guys, plays a huge role. And you need to listen to Kay and you need to figure this shit out because I was in my little apartment, right, trying to figure out life with my kiddos, and I was cooking breakfast, and I thought I was having a heart attack. And like I fell to the ground. I was crawling. I was kind of hunched over, and I called my son. I was like, Jaden, I think you need to take me to the hospital, right? Like this is, and I'm a healthy woman, right? I was like, this is crazy. I'm gonna be one of those ladies that dies when she's like 30, like this is crazy. He takes me to and this is not going to surprise you, Kay, because I know you've seen this, but for a lot of women, this was my wake up call that I needed to manage my stress. So
Mhm.
he takes me to the hospital, to the emergency room. They hook me up. And guys, when you go in with complaints like you think you're having a heart attack, like they are fast. And within an hour, they came back with a prescription that said, it's inflammation in the lungs. And we just are going to treat it with ibuprofen. Go ahead and take 800 milligrams every single day for the rest of your life to manage this. And I was like, I took that script, I ripped it up. My son said, Mom, what are you doing? I said, inflammation is not a thing that I am with. Like, that is curable, right? Like, I can fix
Yeah.
this shit. So I
Yeah.
tell you that, ladies, because I had this massive, what I thought was I was having a heart attack, but it was really stress. So
Mhm.
I'm curious, Kay, like, had I not had that experience, right? And I was just diagnosed with Hashimoto's because stress was like popping up, like all of these things. My body was screaming at me. My hair was thinning, my eczema was all over, couldn't, control the weight was started gaining, like all of the symptoms on paper. And they just kept fixing it with medications and like instead of getting to the real root cause. So I'm curious for a woman who does have some sort of autoimmune disease, what would be your biggest piece of advice to give her to start lowering that stress level?
Yeah, great question. So I want to go back to some things you said because, first of all, let's just go into not a long, lengthy thing about stress, but a
Mhm.
little bit of physiology because, stress in an acute state. So think about this. If you're in the park and it's a beautiful sunshiny day and a bear pops out, well, that stress gets you the heck out of Dodge, right? So you can
Yeah.
get away from it. But when we're constantly living in that, our cortisol, which is our fight or flight, it starts to damage our intestinal lining, this commensal bacteria that we have. You mentioned Hashimoto's. A lot of these autoimmune issues are from our gut, from this cortisol dysregulation. It starts messing with our brain chemistry, all of that. So it's huge when we're in this chronic stress. Our body does not feel safe.
Mhm.
That's the problem. It's trying to tell us to bring us back to safety.
Mhm.
So with that said, and I'm sorry, just list the last part of your question because I went off on a tangent there. What do we do to lower
Yeah.
stress, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What advice would you give a woman who's like,
Yes, yes. So one of the things I'm going to do when we do our big show in Omaha, which I hope everyone's coming to that because it's going to be so powerful. But one of the things we're going to do is I'm going to show you like a 2-minute exercise where you literally can take
Mhm.
your body out of this fight or flight not safety zone and pull your body back into a safe place. It takes 2 minutes. So one of that is just, breathing and taking yourself out of it. And then I always have everyone ask the question, after you get back to that safety feeling where you get the body to calm down, you ask yourself, what is the next best thing I can do for myself right now? So if you're tired, I use this, it's called the halt. Don't do anything when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. So if you're hungry, go grab a healthy snack. If you're tired, go take a nap or maybe go for a walk. If you're angry, do some breathing exercises or just, get yourself into a place where you remove yourself from that anger. So, and if you're lonely, connect. Oh my gosh, as women, we have to connect, right? We have to be able to reach out to someone and make that connection because there's people in our lives that can help us feel good about ourselves, right? Because the other thing I love about women is that we'll go and tell our friends, "Oh, don't worry, you're doing great," and then we put all this pressure on ourselves about how we're not great and we need to do better. So connection is so huge for women because we can find those peeps out there, our tribe that are going to build us up.
I
So
love that.
those would be the two biggest things that you could start with first to help you kind of get out of that stressful situation. And then I know you talk about this, Carissa, a lot. I've learned a lot from you, just the
Oh.
mindset and how, once we make that sudden transition and we get ourselves to more of a safety zone, and then it's those long-term mindset things that we can do that
Mhm.
are so powerful. I mean, I've learned so much from your teachings and how we can get ourselves to these long-term destinations and these mindset changes that are more long-term, right?
Ah, I love that. And I think you bring it well. Thank you. I received that beautiful compliment before I move on because you mentioned self-care. And I'll be honest, I used to wear hustle like a badge of honor. I was like, girl, self-care was another checkbox on my to-do list today. And I was like, it's transactional. I'm like, okay, if I do X, I'll feel better for like a minute. So great, right? It just became this thing. And until that moment, I mean, that was really an epiphany for me because I was like, oh my gosh, stress is what's causing my entire life to freak out, right? My body, like everything, right? I wasn't, yeah, and I don't eat well when I'm stressed. Like I tend to, go to chips and like all the junk food.
Yeah,
And so,
comfort food.
yeah, yeah. And I'm
Because
like,
guess what that does? Just it boosts our serotonin.
yes. So it's like, ladies, give yourself some grace. Like, if you're like, I can't get my hand out of the chip bag, it's like, actually, let's control and manage stress better. And that will be the easiest way to get your hand out of the chips. But
Yes.
you mentioned self-care. And I think that is like one of those things that some women think, like, oh, I've got to go to a monthly massage. I've got to, go get my nails, something like that. But for me, when I was sitting in that functional, and gosh, I wish I knew you back then. When I was sitting in that functional nutritionist, doctor's office, I said, listen, if Hashimoto's is a thyroid thing, I don't want any medication. I want to deal with this the very holistic way. And he looked at me, he's like, okay, we can do that and we'll create a plan, but you're going to have to manage your stress. He's like, Carissa, you eat good, you work out every day. He's like, you're very intentional. He's like, but we need to manage your stress if you're going to do this without any medication. And I'm like, okay, game on. Like, and I became obsessed. And now I call my self-care sandwich is like at 3 times a day, right? Like a club sandwich.
Oh,
It's like morning, noon, and night. Do I make it a point to step back, to breathe, to relax, to let my body, recalibrate itself? Because I know that if I want to control those symptoms, which I feel that I have put Hashimoto's in remission,
yeah.
it's because I manage my stress, ladies. And it's really hard as leaders, right? To like lead a team, to be a great entrepreneur, to lead our families when we are, stressed out all the time, even though we can put on those happy faces like, girl, you ain't fooling nobody. People can see through the stress and, the gray hair and all of those things. So self-care isn't, and it's not a nice thing to have. It's not a luxury, and it definitely doesn't have to be a monthly massage. It is something that you can do, and I love your tips, right? Like just sit and breathe, and then that follow-up question is so beautiful. It's like, what do I need right now in this moment? You're
Yeah.
such an expert. So I'm curious, what is Kay's favorite self-care activity?
Well, I was gonna say I love the whole massage and stuff.
Me too.
When we get busy, I just noticed that hey, I need to go and schedule that massage, or even going and getting a pedicure. But as far as yes, and when I sit back and I ask myself, what is the very next thing I need? Sometimes it's to go take a walk. Sometimes it's go work out. Sometimes it's, you know, I don't know, maybe yes, going and scheduling, picking up the phone and scheduling that massage or something, right? Because those things are important, and we're
Mhm.
just taught as women. I have so many women that call me and they tell me, "Oh, I want to come see you, but first I'm going to bring my son or my daughter." And once you work with them, and I always ask them, "Okay, that's great. I want to work with your whole family, but why are you putting yourself on the back burner? Because you've just told me five things that are going on in your world that if they don't get addressed soon, if we don't fix that root cause, you're not going to be able to take care of your family because you're going to be out for the count. And so why are you putting yourself on hold and putting your son or daughter in first before you take care of you?" You know? So that's an important
Mhm.
thing, is that stop and take care of yourself
That's
because you're not
100%.
any good to anyone else. Right?
Ladies, 100%. Amen. Amen to
Yes.
that. Quit putting yourself on the back burner when you deserve to be on the front burner. Pour
Mhm.
from overflow, not from depletion. Okay, so I want to kind of shift gears with this last half of the show. Biggest myths in functional and hormone industries. So, what are the biggest myths you see in the hormone or wellness industry that are actually keeping women stuck?
I would think it's testing. When you go to the doctor and they do labs, first of all, thyroid. Do you know how many women come to me saying, "I don't feel good. My doctor says I'm fine," because they go to the doctor and the doctor runs what is called a TSH, which is one tiny lab, but they're also looking at a reference range, which is way out here where I look at optimal ranges, which pull things in. When we look at our labs, they're comparing us to a sick person. That's how
Mm,
they're designed, and we want to be compared to a healthy person. So we have to look at a full thyroid panel, which is free T3, free T4, TSH. So I think labs are the biggest misconception of us, as women or men, just how we feel and what's going on with our labs, is that we're not doing labs the right way. We need to be compared to a healthy cohort, and we need to look at those labs the right way. And a lot of these things can be addressed. We can fix them without medications. We can reset the body, look at the root cause, work on the stress, work on the environment, and pull everything together. And our body is, I always think it's like a Swiss, I don't know if you've seen one of those Swiss Army watches where everything turns in
yeah.
pieces, or like dials all over it. When one part of that watch stops, the whole entire watch stops,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
other thing is, how many people or women are running around getting thyroid medication from their doctor, but no one's looking at the adrenals. It's called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Again, it's a system. We have to look at the adrenals. We have to look at the thyroid. We have to balance the body. If you just do thyroid and you don't look at the adrenals, it's like putting one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. So
Mhm.
looking at our body, we're a machine, right? We're designed like a machine, and it has to work perfectly in sync together. So we can't just look at one thing. And that's where medicine is symptom and disease, symptom and disease. That's
Yeah.
how we're taught to look at things.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna bring in AI to this conversation because it's huge right now, and it's pretty much like everyone's new Google. So, I'm sure there are women out there that are literally, putting into their AI, putting into Google, like, what advice can you give me because my hair is falling out, or my gut health sucks, or like a low libido, like whatever it is, right? They're turning to internet, some sort of web base to get answers. So I'm curious, what is the most dangerous piece of advice you hear repeated when it comes to hormone stress or burnout?
It's funny you say that because my husband bought me a coffee cup that
Uh-huh.
says, "Don't let Google or AI now get in the way of my master's degree," because I have women and men call me all the time and say, "Okay, well, I Googled this and I started taking this, this, and this." And
Hmm.
I think testing is so important. Functional testing is so important. Putting the pieces together the right way. That's how we find out our why. So if
Mm.
we go in just AI, what we should do for certain things, and it's going to give us all these herbs and stuff we need to take, we're all biochemically different. You're not going to need the same thing I'm going to need. And how do I know what you're going to need if I'm not running a functional test that sees what's going on so that we can give you the right information to help the body heal? So I love AI, but I don't think it's going to be able to replace how we look at functional nutrition, how we look at functional health, how we look at the body, because we have to do the proper testing to figure out our why.
Yes, 100%. It's like you can't diet like Oh, I get that too. It's like, well, I've tried all these AB and I've been guilty of them, ladies. Like, I don't necessarily go to good Google or AI, but like I go to Pinterest. I'm like, this is my problem. And I see a graphic and I'm like, oh, I'll try that, right? Like, I am totally guilty of that too. But like having these conversations with women who are experts, it's like, let's get to the real cause because what happens as a leader, right, of a seven-figure coaching company, if I'm trying all of these, little, like band-aids to try and fix a gash, what that's actually doing is wasting my time, my energy, and my money. When I could literally just hire Kay, she could do her testing and be like, oh, this is what you actually need, girl. Stop fooling around with Pinterest graphics. So, like, I'm totally guilty of doing that. However, when I think about it, I'm like, oh shit, I'm wasting a lot of money on stupid supplements that are not really getting to the cause and the root, which I just need to then, have a conversation with Kay. So can't wait for that. So speaking, I'll totally put myself in like, I did it. I did it. Okay. Last like question for you, Kay. What has been your favorite transformation or a transformation that you've worked with your client that has really stuck out the most?
Oh my goodness. I have so many, but I just think it's taking someone who feels hopeless and helpless, like they're on in the middle of the ocean on this sinking ship and they're not going to get answers, and taking them to a place where they say, my whole entire life has changed. My husband doesn't even recognize me. I have my life back. And
Oh,
that is when I just stop and go, okay, this was all for a reason. I went through everything I had to go through just for this moment right here.
mm,
And it just warms my heart because at the end of the day, that's my passion, is just helping, women and helping people get their life back. That's my passion.
woo! She's obsessed with it, y'all. I hear about it all the time. She's obsessed, and I kind of like working with a slightly obsessive healthcare professional that's like, okay. Okay, so she mentioned passion. I'm a big believer that women need to figure out their passion, their purpose in life. You've found that. So I'm curious, because you just want to help people, like you have this burning desire just to help people. And there's unfortunately a lot of, functional nutritionists that do not have that obsession anymore or lost the passion. So because you're so obsessed with helping women and people, get their life back and feel like themselves again, you know, I know you bring some of that story into the Alpha Queens Rising book, but as an author of that book, why did you say yes to that? Because the passion is obviously helping people, but why did you say yes to the Alpha Queen Rising book?
Because the women that we co-authored this book with all have the same story, and they're huge stories and they're life-changing stories, and it needs to get out.
Mm,
People need to hear the story. They need to hear from these different women. And, I feel like I know each and every one of them. I'm going to actually meet them in person, but I just feel like just reading their stories and stuff just so resonates with me. And
mm,
I just think that women need to understand, and they need to know what's going on and how they can change their world, and that they're not alone.
mhm.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of women think that, we start to think we're on isolation island and like nobody understands us. But when we read stories, when we hear stories that, that we can see ourselves in, is like, oh my gosh, if she was able to do that, then so can I. And if she can get through that, then so can I. It just kind of gives us permission to start to think outside the box, like, oh wow, she healed Hashimoto's and vertigo without medication, and like they live, symptom free. Like it's
Right.
possible for us, ladies. And if any part of Kay's story is like, what, I want to, I want to work with Kay, I want to at least have a conversation with Kay. Yes, book a call with her. She's a game changer. I definitely need to do that myself. But you can also meet her in person. She mentioned earlier that she is going to be speaking and teaching us about 200 women about how to, reset their bodies. And, she kind of like gave a little golden nugget around breath work, but I know she has so much more to give during that time. So I want to kind of bring the last major question is the Rise event, right? You're flying in from Bakersfield,
I'm
California.
excited.
Yeah, yeah. You're bringing clients, you're bringing friends. We've been marketing this experience because this is more than an event, ladies. An event is kind of you go and you feel inspired and then you kind of leave and you're like, wah, wah, wah. this is an experience, right? So if you want to come and meet Kay and nine other incredible authors and leaders, all in their own industry, their own expertise. But Kay, I'm curious, why do women need spaces like this event right now, especially leaders who are tired of pushing through?
Because what you just said, isolation. And so we go and get filled up for maybe 5 minutes, and then we come back and we never learn the tools that takes it from that to actually changing our life, changing our habits, changing our world. And so I think this event is going to be so powerful because the women that are going to step on that stage are
Mhm.
going to help each and every one of you out there change your life and to come home and have tools that you can actually do
Mm,
to implement, because you know what? If nothing changes, nothing changes. We have
mm,
to actually come and plug it in. And this is what's going to help you do that. It's going to be life changing. And I believe every woman should be there.
mm. Yes, I wish. I mean, one of these days Kate, we're gonna have to fill the Rose Bowl Stadium with
Yes.
with women. Like, oh my gosh, that's my ultimate dream. All right, ladies, I could keep going on and on. Maybe I'll bring Kay back later on in the show and just, because I wanted to just dive into so much more because I think this is like stress is a killer when it comes to your bank account, your marriage, your sex life, everything, you guys. Stress doesn't just affect you, internally, it affects everything
Yes.
internally, externally. So we have to, bring this up. So I would love to actually bring Kay back to continue this conversation. But if you need a reset on your health, your hormones, your energy, call Kay. Okay. And if you're looking to release fear or rebuild confidence or really step into your leadership that actually supports your life and your business, then that's when you would call Carissa over
Yeah.
here at Alpha Queen Collective. But together, right? Just imagine if you had
Together,
Kay in
we're
your
a
corner.
great team. I mean, there is no way that you cannot change your world in a positive way without this team. I'm just saying.
100%. I love it. Like the powers combined. We're like Power Rangers now. All right, rapid fire. What daily non-negotiable protects your home hormones and your sanity? What is one daily non-negotiable?
My biggest thing is we can't change what other people think, feel, say, or do. And I have to remind myself of that every single day because I am a woman and it's not, I don't like, I think it's leadership skills. I don't like to call it control, but I like to try to control my circumstances sometimes and how somebody's responding to me. And man, that steals your peace more than anything. So that's my daily mantra because every
Mm,
single day someone is going to offend you, we cannot change what other people think, feel, say, or do. And when you surrender to that, it just takes everything off the hook and we don't respond the same way to how people, because we deal with people every day. That's what we're here for, right? Every single day we're going to have an encounter with someone that we want to change their behavior or response. And we
every
just
day. I
do
love
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I
I think if we can
couldn't
think about,
agree with
huh?
you more.
What's that? Yeah, I agree. Yes.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. Like, I'm like, ladies, quit giving all of your energy to something you have no control over. I'm like, newsflash. Okay, last really rapid fire question. Finish this sentence. Strong
Uh,
leadership starts with.
you. I think it starts with us, right? We have to be willing to we have to be willing to look at ourselves. We have to be willing to make changes in ourselves, and we have to be willing to reflect that to others. So I think it starts with us.
Mm, beautiful. It starts within, ladies. So if you are a woman listening to today who is strong on paper but feels depleted in private, I really want you to take a step back and reflect on yourself. What do you need right now? Do you need Kay? Do you need, a Carissa in your life? Like, who do you need? What do you need to help you move the needle forward? Because this conversation matters. And Kay reminded us that today is something women have been conditioned to forget, that exhaustion is not a character flaw. Burnout is not a lack of discipline, and needing support does not mean you're failing at leadership, ladies. It means your body has been carrying more than it was designed to hold all alone. So, leadership isn't just a mindset, it's not just about strategy or resilience or pushing through the hard times.
Yes.
Leadership lives in the nervous system. in your hormones and your capacity to regulate, recover, and respond. So, if today's episode resonated with you, I want you to hear me very clearly. You're not broken, you're not behind, and you don't need to become less powerful to become more healthy. You just have to dive into Kay's work. So, guys, get your copy of the Alpha Queens Rising book, grab your ticket to Rise, and we will see you shortly. And I will see you next time on Iconic Leadership. Kay, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Iconic Leadership. If today's conversation activated something within you, make sure you subscribe and share this podcast with women who are ready to rise up too. Leaving a review helps this movement reach more women stepping into their power. This is Iconic Leadership.